My mom is turning 70, and I'm celebrating by making her a Bumblebee junk journal. Last year I made my mom a really tiny journal that could fit in the palm of her hand. And this year I'm making her one that's a little more useful. She loves bumblebees, so I made a bumblebee journal for her. This one has 2 signatures, and it starts with a little secret note envelope telling my mom how much I love her. And then the signatures covers were made out of art doll pages, and I just lined the cover with some heavy duty scrapbooking paper to make sure it was a little more sturdy. I wanted to give my mom a head start on journaling, so I thought that I would ask her questions about herself and put those in there on journal cards. So I went online and I just found some questions about motherhood and grabbed some that I liked, and I wrote each one on a journaling card so that hopefully she at least has a place to start. When I made this one, I grabbed some blank pages and also just a few pages from some of the German books and German vintage receipts that I had, since that is our heritage. And I thought I would include those for my mom. I have a couple envelopes. There's one in each signature. They're in the center. And this one has a question about your favorite thing about your kids that she'll write. I had this little art zine that I made when I first started journaling. I've had it in my stash forever, and the colors finally matched something. I was so excited to be able to use it, so I tossed that in there for her. The clip art that I used came from Etsy. One of the shops was Adamo Prints, Adamo, and the other shop was My Porch Prints. So I'll leave a link to those as well. I was able to use up a lot of my scraps for this journal. I had a jelly page in there, some book pages that I used to make envelopes, some 6x6 scrapbook paper. Actually, I used quite a bit of it. I even covered up a couple book page envelopes with that scrap paper to make it a little more decorative. So it was nice. I got to use a lot of my scraps. Usually when I junk journal, I use a ton of original vintage pages and ephemera. And this time I just used a little bit of the vintage stuff and lots of my scraps. So it was a nice change. Another thing that was fun for me this time that I don't usually do had to do with how I was going to stamp the edges. Usually I use vintage photo whenever I'm whenever I'm inking the edges. And this time I used Distress Oxide. The color I used was Antique Linen, which had a little bit of a yellow tint. And that was a lot of fun. It gave it a little color, especially on the black and white pages. You can see a little bit of that on this envelope here. And speaking of using up my scraps, this piece of yellow ribbon I've also had forever, and I've never quite been able to find a use for it. I've tried a ton of times, and it finally fit in this journal. So that was good. I am a bit worried about the casual stitching. I purposely made the stitch lines a little wavy and wobbly, but my mom doesn't like crooked things. She likes things to be nice and straight. So she's probably going to give me a hard time about my crooked stitching, but that's okay. It's good for her to be a little crooked and wobbly once in a while. I feel like I might want to go back in and put just a little bit more decoration or maybe some beads or charms. I do like it how it is, but I also feel like maybe it could use just a tiny bit more sparkle. It does not have very many beads at all, especially since on the side I really wanted to highlight the big bumblebee. I didn't want to take away from him at all. So I might go in and add a couple charms here and there on the pages. I also really liked the combination of the yellow and the deep green on the front cover. I might try and do another journal with this color combination. This is the second Bumblebee journal that I've made, so maybe it will even end up being a third Bumblebee journal. The cover is a hardcover. It's made from a coffee filter box, so it's nice and sturdy. And there's that Bumblebee charm. He is so cute. Well, I hope you've enjoyed watching. This one is not for sale. Like I said, this is a gift for my mom. But I will return to making journals for my shop soon. Until then, have a Merry Christmas.